Well, with a title like that, you have to be ready to listen. You have to be ready. I'm starting off. I'm getting excited about the hobby again, and why? You got to wonder why, right? Because you've come on here and you've heard recently, a couple things that are negative about the hobby. You go on Instagram and Twitter and wherever else you get your hobby news and your hobby information, and it's down, down, down. Charts are down. Everything's down. So what the heck is Cage talking about? What's he excited about the hobby again? And I'm gonna tell you really easy, one sentence. I'm excited about the hobby because the hobby's going to need me again. The hobby's going to need you again. And let me explain what I mean by that. There's a balance in this hobby. There's a balance in the money making. There's a balance in the success. And when that balance gets tipped in one way or the other, the hobby, like every other industry, like every other market, has a way of correcting itself, right? When things get out of whack. And the last time things got out of whack here, it was actually in the favor of the collectors. It was in the favor of the hobby participants. And there was demand for cards at the price that they were at. More demand for cards at the price they were at than could be met by the supply. There was demand for grading at the prices that were being charged. I'm talking about going back to 2018, 2019. Where you could buy cards, you could buy wax still at a reasonable price. And then after buying that wax, you could grade cards at a reasonable price. And the success that was there was the card companies were selling their cards, right? The stores were making their little bit of markup. And the grading companies were grading cards at a price that still allowed them to make money and make profit. And then in turn, while all those hobby companies were making their margin, they were making their profits. The Tops and the Panini of the world were selling their product. The stores were selling their stuff. The distributors were getting their cut. The grading companies were getting their cut. The consumers were still getting value in those boxes, still getting cards out that had a return on them and still able to, increase that return through grading at a reasonable price. But it got a little bit interesting, right? Because with enough people able to do that, more and more people wanted to grade. And I'll be as honest with you as I can. It almost got too easy for the consumer side of it, right? It almost got too easy because so much demand came in during COVID, during the pandemic, so much, money came in, so many more participants came in, that if you were the one with the product, if you already had stuff at PSA and they were grading it at $6 or $8 a card for you, you were getting base cards back that you paid very little for, that you bought, that you got in boxes. You were getting, your cards back and you were, quote, into them for so little that it was almost too easy for you to make money on them. And then everybody tried to do that. And when everybody tried to do that, the price of wax went up and the price of grading went up. And stayed up. The amount of time it took to get your cards back increased. The amount of product increased. The price of the product increased. And all of a sudden you had the pendulum swing from correct to overcorrect, right? It went from, okay, very consumer friendly, with still the markets being able to make their money, to, okay, well, Topps is no longer owned by Topps. It's owned by a company that saw the ability to squeeze more money in there. PSA was a public company that was taken private by another entity that changed what was going on there, purchased Golden Collectors. And they, with those changes and with that increased demand, they changed the way they did business. And there's nothing wrong with what they were doing there, right? When there is this increased supply, when this increased demand, you have to make changes, right? I mean, if you know you can get $20 or $30 or $40 or $50 to grade a card, and you can grade less cards to make the same amount of money, you do it. Hell, they weren't even grading less cards. They were charging more money and grading more cards. The boxes were more money. The cards being produced were more money, and people were still buying them. People were still getting into them. People were still paying $70, $80, $100 for a blaster. So the prices went up. The amount of product that was made went up. The cost to grade the cards went up. And the pendulum swung to the end consumer got squeezed. And someone like me who loved the thrill of opening wax, who loved the ability, it was almost mathematical for me, right? If I bought a box of cards, I knew I was going to get X back. Now, sometimes it's more than the box cost. More often than not, it's less than what the box cost. If you're crafty about it, you know who collects this and blah, 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 like my UFC days. You knew you were able to get something out of it no matter what. That's something that you were able to get out decreased to a point where it's almost laughable what you get out of these boxes. And that's why you've seen the shift to basically gambling, to breaking. And it's not just, hey, we're going to sell our boxes with a target of an end consumer. I've heard people talk about we're going to have boxes and cards in your local 7-Eleven. They got packs of tops in my 7-Eleven. They're charging $7.99 for a pack of cards. What idiot is buying that? And if you do buy it and you get nothing but base cards in there, are you ever going to buy another $8 pack of Topps cards? No. It's silly. And that's not the end user. The end user is not me anymore. The end user of wax during this last year or two, it is this carnival, live selling, content driven, oh my God, bang, I got the Sam Howell. Look at this manufactured patch base Mac Jones bullshit. Boom, we got it. That's where it's marketed to, and it's got to be done like a roulette wheel where there's a shot for you to hit a jackpot. That's not, I believe, not sustainable. And I believe that while there's always going to be a market for that, what I'm hoping to see is that pendulum, which was more favoring your collector. Somebody like me, I love opening wax. I love grading the cards. I love being able to build up my collection that way, right? Because you think about it. Let's say you spend $500 a month on wax and you layer on top of that another $500 in that month to grade cards. And you do that every month. It's reasonable. It's kind of what I was doing before all this crazy run up. And I would get my cards back. I'd let my son pick some cards out that he wanted to keep in his collection. I'd pick some cards out that I wanted to keep in my collection, and I would sell the rest. And some months I'd get the whole $1,000 back. Some months I'd get more. Some months I'd get less. But every month my collection and my son's collection was growing, and I was able to defray some of the costs. I was able to get back some of the money. Heck, some situations I was able to add cards to my PC and actually make money to use next month for grading, just in case I didn't do so well on my boxes. But it was something that allowed me to continue to participate in the hobby. Did that make me an investor or a collector? Did it make me both? Can I be really considered a collector, or do the purest collectors want to throw me out because that was the way that I collected, that I tried to, sustain and build my PC using the money, churning and constantly going through cards that I opened in packs with my son, cards that he wanted to add, and then selling the stuff that we didn't want to keep. Maybe the stuff that didn't grade well, or maybe the stuff that graded well. Sometimes you sell the good graded stuff because that's where you're going to get your most money for, to buy more wax. Who knows? Does that make me an investor or a flipper? I guess. Truth is, it doesn't matter what you call me. I was having fun doing that, and that was taken away by this recent run. And I got to tell you, what I'm getting excited about in the hobby again, it's not the myriad of card stores that are opening, the hard hats that you see on Instagram showing me the card stores that it's not going to do anything for me. It's just not, because the card stores that are opening up with that many square feet and that much of an investment, they've got to squeeze people too to get their money back. The exciting thing for me is that there are still some pockets opening up now where there are cards you can buy and then grade, and maybe, just maybe, do what it was that I enjoyed doing, ripping a little bit of wax and being able to grade. I got to tell you, I'll throw out some examples. I hated that my Bo Nix auto was destroyed. And Topps, I know Fanatics doesn't listen to me. Nobody cares. I don't know what exactly to do with it. I guess Cole will send it in, mail, who knows. But I was paying $100 a box for those Bowman University, Chrome football box. That's great. You get a numbered Marvin Harrison card. You get a decent auto here and there. You get first Bowman cards of Deion Sanders kids and the prospects from Colorado, and you get to watch. I'm not a college football guy, but my son and I have watched more college football because of a release like that, and it's at an acceptable price, right? And I hope that there are more things like that come out price-wise in that range, right? I really do. I hope that there are more more cards that are priced that way. I don't know how many will be. I'm curious to see how much the Topps McDonald's stuff is. I've been told it's probably going to be a little bit more than I'd want to spend, but it's fun to chase the Bronny stuff, right? There you go. Topps fun stuff. Bronny. I'm going to buy a box of that. The Topps Chrome All-American, just to, my son knows who Bronny is. So maybe we'll get an auto. He probably won't. One of the fun things that probably is interesting out there, hypothetically, maybe a store owner doesn't like, and maybe this has got to be fixed. And we'll get back to my excitement in a second is, hypothetically, what if the direct cost for that Topps Chrome All-American was $140, but now Topps.com is selling it for $129.99, at least while supplies last? How does that help? How does that help the LCSs? How do LCSs order from Topps? How do they order from Fanatics? How do you go out and say, all right, well, my direct cost is $140. It means I got to put it in my store at $155, $160. And you're going to get the kids coming in and saying, hey, I can get this right now myself for $129 right on Topps website. Why would I pay you $155 or $160 for it? It's an interesting, fun little thing. And that pendulum's got to swing back to the way that it was. One of the unique things I'm looking at, and it could burn me. I love the instant and Topps Now and Panini Instant and those cards that are coming out now. It's really cool because you're watching a game. You watch Steph playing against the Rockets, and he's like, like he's almost artwork now on the court, right? It's almost like a mockery, and they make a card of it, and my son and I are watching that, like, oh, let's buy that card, let's grab that one. That's a cool thing. It also allows for rookie cards a little quicker. It's one of the things I'm looking at. It's one of the things I am excited about in the hobby. Because while the release schedule is screwy, and there are still basketball releases coming out from last season, even though we're in this season now, and you're not going to get, for another month or so, the first uniform cards out, you can with those Instant and Topps Now and those kind of ones. So that's an interesting one, and they're not so expensive. So it's approachable for every kind of hobbyist, all kinds of markets. But I think the thing that's exciting me the most about it is when I see grading companies needing us again. Yeah, you heard that right. So I saw SGC decrease their price. I think it was $1, for TCG and for modern cards. And, they're going to get their cards back to you quicker. But when they have that, it tells me they have capacity because they're decreasing their price. It means, just like supply and demand, right? It means that at the current price, they're not seeing the demand for their grading that they want to see. So they decrease the price. And PSA has expanded their footprint for grading. I mean, they're grading in, in Asia now, and they have a place in New Jersey. I don't know what they're grading out of there. I think that's where you send your Type 1 cards, Type 1 photos. But I don't know if they're also doing some grading out of that facility. But obviously, they've ramped up and they have capacity. And they're grading a ton of cards. But it's my opinion, I think they can grade more. And the reason I say that is because there are a lot more specials than there previously were. Flash specials, new specials. And if you go to the PSA website now, you're going to see they're doing sort of like a 12 days of Christmas type thing. But it's a 12 special thing between November 1st and the end of the year. Basically 12 items, like 60 days. So 5 days. You want to do this special, you got 5 days. And then when they release the next one right on their site, that old one is gone. So they're almost like creating a sense of urgency for people. Like, all right, you got to grade now. If you want to use this card grading special, you got to grade with us for the next 5 days. You got to get it in and do it now. Otherwise, that's it. It's gone. You can't grade anymore using that special. I think today they released that first one, and it was like their $150 express at $99. And they'll do other ones. Maybe it'll be a football specific one. Maybe it'll be NBA soon because NBA is under, is coming. Maybe there'll be a release of some, when Prism football comes out, they'll do a special for Prism football or something. Who knows? It's a surprise, so I can't tell you what they are. But what I can tell you is when a company is doing something like that, it will inure to your benefit. It means that pendulum, that balance is swinging back in the favor of the consumer because you're going to be able to grade quicker and cheaper. And if we see that combined with the inevitable, I believe, reduction in cost of product, you already see the writing on the wall. You see, markdowns at Walmart. You see, wax sitting on the shelves at retail that otherwise wouldn't have been there. You're starting to see markdowns. You're seeing people sell product at a loss because they just can't move it. That will take some time, but it will filter back up. And the product, you're going to probably see two things, and this is not something you'll see next month or even the next 6 months. You'll probably see a reduction in the amount of product that's out there. Certain products that just don't sell, they'll make less of. And the pricing of it has got to be less. So I like that. What I get excited about here is I'm not going anywhere. I mean, I've done now 92 solo episodes here. You saw, somebody listening has my millionth audio download. I had something like 4 million impressions on YouTube. How do I go anywhere? Hell, I got an email from Patreon today. I don't even know what the hell that was, but they want to give me money somehow. I'm not going to do it because it's free for you guys listening and watching. But I'm not going anywhere. And I like where we're headed. We're not there yet. We're not where we need to be. But I will tell you my optimism for the hobby and for the space stems from I see little rays of light coming in, right? Can you see it? You see a little light? It's almost like it's there's little areas, there's little windows that are, if you think about it, wow, that's a place where I can maybe have some fun. Maybe I can collect those. Maybe I can buy that wax. Maybe there's a way for me to buy that, collect some, keep some of the cool stuff that I like, and also figure out a way to help me offset the cost of the whole thing. It's been a while since I've seen those type of opportunities. I know there's plenty of people out there who are doing this. I know there's flippy dippies all over the place. And if you believe YouTube channels, there are still guys with little microphones and cameras and the whole deal, and they're going out and they're buying and selling and they're picking up, $1 cards and leaving card shows with, suitcases full of their cards. I know it can be done. I just can't do it myself because I live on this planet called Earth and I don't live in fantasy land. But there are people out there who are making money. When Fantasyland switched to reality and me here with my feet planted firmly on the ground, see ways to maybe make money in this hobby again, ways to maybe fund my collection through the hobby. Maybe that's the best way of saying it, right? Like not having to dip into my pocket for more money, but being able to figure out a way to have a hobby budget that allows me both to use that same money to, build up my collection and let that money continue to let me buy more cards, you name it. Like that to me is fun, right? Does you want to say that doesn't make me a collector? I should only be continuing to dip into my pocket and always buy more cards and always be putting more money in? Okay, kick me out of the collectors club. I'm sorry, guys. To me, this is much more fun, right? It's almost like a game. It's like, all right, a couple weeks ago, between card grading and card buying, I have this one project that cost me about $7,000. And I have a spreadsheet, and I'm going to get the cards back, and I'm going to sell them, and I'm going to see what that $7,000 generates. How many cards I get to keep, how many cards my son gets to keep in his collection that he inevitably will go and sell too cheap. And how much of that 7 I'm able to get back. Maybe I make more than 7. We'll see. Best part about it is when I actually get it back and I go through this stuff, I'm going to share it with you guys. And that's what I'm getting excited about. I want you guys to be looking for stuff like that for yourselves as well. Talk to you soon. No more Raiders head coach. I mean, I will tell you guys, I applied for the job. It is the 6th time in my life that I sent an email to the Davis family. The first ones were sent to Al Davis when he was still alive, offering my services as the Raider head coach. I've yet to receive a reply. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop applying. I apply. I applied before McDaniels. I could not have done a worse job than him. I've been applying for a long time. We'll see what happens. They have an interim head coach. I'm hoping they bring me in for a look and an interview during the offseason. Commitment to excellence, baby. Raiders are terrible. Take care, guys. I'll see you in a couple of days. Thanks for checking out the show. I don't ask people to like and subscribe, but if you haven't subscribed and you're listening to this, subscribe. I guess I should be asking people that. That's pretty much it. Drop a comment. I'll respond. Talk to you soon, guys. Take care.